So I think we will start with this breakfast seminar, and today we will speak in English, but you can ask questions both in Swedish and English in our chat at our YouTube channel, and then we will try to answer those questions after me and Adam has spoken. So around 9:30. So we will talk today about the use of gamification as a tool for operation management in automation projects. And my name is Åsa Fast, and I'm a professor here at Chalmers in smart automation. And I'm also the operating chief here at SciLab, Stena Industry Innovation Lab. And Adam Palmquist, he's a PhD student at University of Skövde and also chief science officer at Insert Coin. So Stena Industry Innovation Lab, we have been around for about 2 years, and the overall purpose of SciLab is to increase competence within the 9 so-called enabling technologies in industry, and we want to demonstrate how these enabling technologies is used in final assembly. So our main area is final assembly and complex tasks. And we also want to know how its implementation is affects the organization and the operator. We see here. Okay, I will continue, and then if you don't hear me, please do another chat in our YouTube channel. Okay, so the 9 enabling technologies was presented in 2017. And you can see them here on the picture. So it's quite a lot of different technologies, from big data, real-time optimization, cloud computing, cyber physical systems, additive manufacturing, collaborative robot applications, XR technologies, machine learning, and industrial Internet of Things. So for this, we thought that we might need somewhere to show this, and also, as I said, show how this affects the final assembly, and also how the implementation affects the organization, the operator, and the design of both the product and the production layout. So what we did was to create a lab environment. As you can see here, you can also take a tour in our lab, a virtual tour at scilab.se. And what you can do here, we have an education in our simulated work environment, our SWE factory, where we produce drones. And it's located in this area here. And here you can learn how some of these enabling technologies are related. So we have industrial Internet of Things from ThingWorx. We use digital product and we have different levels of automation. And we have different areas. We have the final assembly. We have the internal logistics, production IT, and also learning and simulation. So you can either go here on education or workshops. We have some demonstrators if you just want to be here for 1 hour. You can be part of research projects, and also you can bring your own components to do pre-studies. So if you bring your components, you can use our infrastructure to do a first pre-study in, for example, using collaborative applications. And for that, we have different areas that you can rent, and you can have your own components. So that's a little bit about Stena Industry Innovation Lab. So today we're going to talk about combining the areas of gamification, automation, and project management. So me and Adam will soon be launching this book, The Automation Game Master, and Adam will talk a little bit more about what an automation game master is later. And I will talk a little bit about automation and how this could be used in automation projects. So what we see is this is it's called the Gartner Hype Curve. Comes every year, and it talks about the maturity of technologies, you can say. So on this side you have the innovation curve. So here you have early adopters, you have R&D, you have startup companies. So quite early in the product development phase and innovation phase. Then on the peak you see that early majority you invest, and it's a critical time if you want to continue, or if it's just a product that's not sellable. So you need to have some social proof of the concept and the products. And then further along here, you see that the engineering and business maturity increases, and also the plateau of the productivity. So the hype level decreases, and then the real business maturity increases. And you have improvements, so second or third generation of products, and maybe some services as well. And here you develop methods and best practices in order to bring more people on the train. And then you see here half the early majority investigate. And usually you talk about around 30% of the users should be investigated in order to reach that point. So around 30%. And as we see it, it's quite important that you have methodologies and best practices. So we think that gamification mechanisms can be used in order to improve and fasten this. So by using gamification mechanisms, you can motivate teamwork, you can motivate collaboration and reskilling in order to be able to increase your knowledge about, for example, collaborative applications. And then you can do better investments. So that's the idea with this curve. Another thing that we see is that if you look at the picture here in the corner, you can see that the level of automation is quite high in the early stages of the product flow. So for machining, welding, and body in white, the levels of automation or the robot cells is quite high. But when we come further to the end of the product flow, the level of automation decreases. So for final assemble, for example, we did a study a couple of years ago, and we found that 95% of the task in the final assembly is still manual. So you can see it as quite a huge automation potential, since the final assembly is only 5% automated. And by automated, we mean not only robots. It could be pneumatic hand tools, for example. So anything that helps the operator to perform the task without using her own force. So you can also use semi-automatic automation. And as you can see here, the International Federation of Robotics do yearly measurements about investments in robots, industrial robots. And in 2018, only 3.4% of the robots that were bought was designed for collaborative applications. So also here we can see a potential in increasing the use of collaborative applications. And as I said before, in order to reach the plateau in Gartner's hype curve, you need 30% of the early majority to use the technology. And here we have 3.4%. So we still have a bit left. And so why do we need this automation game master and operation management? Why do they need this book and game mechanism? We think that you need to think a little bit different when it comes to automation. So collaborative workstation is not the same as traditional robot cells. You need to have new ways of working and new design of both the product and the assembly systems. And we think for this you need to have an organization innovation, and you need to have a very good operation management or change management when to invest, and also to when you should implement collaborative applications. And for this we think that game mechanism is a good way to go. So that's why also. So in terms of gamification, I will just explain a little bit the differences between 4 words or phrases that you usually hear when you talk about using game or gamification and in industry and education. Those are gameplay, serious games, game-based learning, and gamification. And they mean, they have a little bit different meaning when you talk about how to use them and where they are used, and how much they are used. If we talk about the industry and how we in industry use this, the gameplay is very common to use. And here we have a example. Maybe some of you recognize the beer game from often used in lean education. And lean education, they use gameplay quite a lot to learn different philosophies and different theories. So this is one game or gameplay. And gameplay is defined as a series of challenges in a simulated environment. So in this case, you simulate a supply chain, and you learn the Whipple effect, and you learn also order systems and push and pull systems. So this is used for in a simulated environment. And gameplay also includes actions that the players can take to meet the challenges. So in this, there are well-defined challenges that you should do or accomplish. And gameplay also keeps players motivated all the time. So in this big game, you actually draw cards, so you change the environment, or you change the scene with different challenges. So as I said, this is quite common in industry. The other one, the serious games, is used mostly to fulfill a purpose beyond the game itself. So it's for maybe starting a debate or a discussion. And it usually have some twist on it. So I don't know if any one of you have played this, Can Your Pet? I will not... if you haven't played it, play it, because it's interesting, and it's a debate on animal treatment and food industry. And then I will say no more, but it's it's a good play game, and I think it shows the message quite well. For the other ones, game-based learning and gamification. Maybe those are often the ones that are mixed together, and they are in somewhat quite similar. But game-based learning is more used in learning and teaching environments. You have clear learning objectives in a course, for example, and you're learning by playing the game. So it's more about the learning experiments. For the gamification, you add game components or game mechanisms. So in order to drive the motivation. But Adam will talk about that a little bit more later. And the game-based learning is also used as problem solving, and could be both analog and digital. So just to conclude my speech here, we have this evolution that we also have in the book, and we explain them a little bit more in our book. So we have the traditional industrial evolutions, as most of you have probably seen. So industry 1.0 up to 4.0. But what we see is that you also have an evolution in using game mechanisms. So in the earlier evolution, as I said, the gameplay was quite common to use. And you use it for team building, and you have the analog game-based learning. So this could also be used in learning. If you have a learning objectives and so on. And then we have digital game-based learning and blended learning in industry or Game Master 3.0. And this is a game that we developed together with Insert Coin in order to show how you can educate workers in order to handle the increased level of automation better. So when implementing automation, you also need to reskill your operators. And these are some of the reflections that students had. You can have so skilled workers that automations is not even required. And it's almost always better to educate your workers than hiring a new one to increase productivity. And for me, that is, then I believe that they have learned something when they have played a game. This is what we saw with this game was that if you see it as a game and not game-based learning, then you think it's a game, and maybe you don't see the learning activities or the learning as the prior part. Maybe you see the gaming as the prior part. So for that you need to be have the learning objectives and explain the learning objectives before you start the game, and also to make the students understand that it's a game-based learning. It's not only a game. It's actually learning by playing the game. Yes. So that was actually all from me. Now we will change the speaker, so we will see if we can connect Adam. It will take maybe 1 or 2 minutes if you want to grab some coffee, and then we will continue.
Of the workforce. But at the same time, we see when the Gallup did the State of the Global Workplace investigation, they concluded that 32% of the working age adults worldwide consider themselves have a good job. 32%. It's a quite low percentage, I have to say. Also, 85% of the employees worldwide are not engaged or are actively disengaged in their job. In this investigation, actively disengaged meant that they are sabotaging on their workplace because they don't feel engaged. They sabotage different environments. They don't care about the company. They don't care about how the co-workers and so on and so forth. So, but we have to talk about Sweden because this is a Swedish presentation. How does it look in Sweden? As the Gallup investigators said, that 75% of the Swedish workforce are not engaged at work. 75%. 7.5 million of people are not engaged at their work. And we got 11% in Sweden that are actively disengaged in their work. They don't like to go to work. They don't even want to their corporation to thrive. They don't want the corporation to grow. They want to be at another place for 8 hours a day. But only 14% of the Swedish workforce are engaged. And these numbers are quite similar in all Western Europe. It differs some percentage between Germany, Denmark, France, Great Britain, but more or less they are quite the same. But why is workplace engagement important? Yeah, according to the Gallup investigation, only 3% of the engaged employees have considered leaving work to find another work. But 45% of the actively disengaged employees have considered leaving. And as you all know, that recruitment are a very tedious process, and it's also very costly. And doing a bad recruitment or a misplaced recruitment, it's even more costly. And then after a time, they will probably leave work, and you have to redo the whole search for new talented employees. So that's one thing why workplace engagement are important. Another thing, the part two of this, is that with employees not engaged in their work, many companies find it difficult to accelerate innovation, creativity, and productivity, and other essential elements that go into improving the organizational performance. And this is really important. If you don't have an engaged workforce, you cannot do innovation, and you cannot increase productivity because the employees are not engaged in what you do. And as we all know, innovation, creativity, and productivity are key elements for producing upcoming and a thriving organization or a corporation. We can take Google, for example. Google is one of the highest ranked creative and innovative companies in the world, and they have a high workplace engagement. So, to conclude this presentation, the existing workforce must therefore be prepared to adapt to more quickly to new and some probably not invented profession, and therefore you need engagement in many ways. Upskilling, retraining, and continuous learning are essential components for the professional success throughout the digital shift. And improving employee engagement by working towards a more employee-centered workplace is critical to accelerate innovation, creativity, and productivity. And through these two themes, me and Åsa started to discuss, plan, and we come up with the automation game master, because games are built to engage. They are using different mechanics to engage people in games. And games, this subject of game studies, is a cross-disciplinary field of psychology, pedagogy, cognition science, behavior science, and graphics, and so on and so forth. So game designers today are looking at a variety of different theories and methods to engage people in their game. Therefore, we looked at how do a game designer, and we put it into the concept of a project manager, a gamification project manager. So we in the book we are discussing how different motivational affordances, game mechanics, can be a part of the solution of engage and upskill the existing workforce. But then you might ask yourself, what is a automation game master? Yeah, in our definition, we talked about this a lot when we started to write the book. And this text comes directly from, I think it's the second page of the book, and it was one of the last pages we wrote together. And when we have written all the text, more or less all the text, we could agree on what an automation game master was, because it was a term that developed during this writing phases, the different writing phases of the book. And as you can see, the AGM could be a person that manages the projects, moderates activities, and create a creative and fun environment for teaching and learning within automation-related projects. Similar roles can be seen as companies today. For example, a Scrum Master, a Lean Champion, a Black Belt, or Lean Senpai. So it's in that category you should view the automation game master called the AGM, but it's the best of two worlds. It's partly game designer, but also partly project manager for automation. And the 5 functions of the AGM in the book are described as: the AGM knows and masters the rules of the game, or the rules of the company or corporation or the project. The AGM gives a project a good narrative and meaning for the participants, and creates an engagement among the employees. The AGM constructs a good and creative work environment, and the AGM facilitates a dynamic and adaptable workflow. And these are the main chapters of the book, and these chapters go through how you do this and how you produce these 5 concepts. But and we are using gamification as the motivational affordances, or actually game mechanics, and I will talk shortly about it. Åsa did a very good presentation. You have to mute your computer, your Zoom channel. Thank you. Yes, automation. Gamification is the use of game elements in activities that are not traditional associated with gaming, such as commerce, information technology, transport, or education. It's used to build engagement, used to build motivation for something, or changing habits, bad habits for good habits, for example. One very, very easy form of gamification is if you put your running shoes at the bed, so you stumble upon them every morning. So as a reminder that you need to go exercising, go out running. That's one very simple way of making gamification or habit building. So, but if you get into the academical terms, there's Sebastian Detterding and Lennart Nacke did a really great framework for what gamification is. If you look at the right corner of this framework, you can see in the upper left corner, you can see the serious game part. There's a whole game. But if you look at the upper right corner, you can see gamification, a more of gameful design. It doesn't use whole games, it uses elements of games. And when we wrote the book, we liked this definition of motivational affordances and game elements in gamification. And so we used the Lennart Nacke and Sebastian Detterding framework, but also we looked at the mechanics, dynamics, and aesthetics framework and how it could be utilized in engaging the workforce for training or just engaging them in a project. And the mechanics are the rules of the game, or the environment of the game. Why the dynamics are things that controls the games. It could be a flow, a workflow, or a round in Monopoly, for example. Monopoly is not my favorite game, but I can use it as a description. In Monopoly, the dynamic for the turns are that you rolling the die and then you move. That's one dynamic of Monopoly. Then you land on a street and then you move. And that's the last part. The aesthetics are what are the players feeling of this outcome. The mechanics and dynamics creates the aesthetics. So if you take a very, very simple game, rock, paper, and scissors, you can see the mechanics of the game are that rock takes scissor take bag, paper, and paper take rock. Okay, everyone knows this game. We have played it when we were kids, or maybe this weekend with contesting with your partners for who is going to do the dishes or some arbitrary task. Anyway, if we change, and the mechanics are very easy. You get 1 point for every time you defeat the opponent's scissor with the rock, or the scissor with the paper. But if we change the mechanics and dynamics in this, we can give the scissor 2 points. If you defeat the paper bag, the paper with the scissor, you will earn 2 points instead of just earning 1 point using the rock against the scissor and the paper against the rock. And I happen to know that the scissor, in this case, are the least used mechanic in this game, in this quite simple game. All over the world, the scissor is least used. So if you're going to play rock, paper, and scissor, always start with the scissor, because then you have most chance of defeating your opponent. But if I give it 2 points, investigation can tell that we are more keen to using the scissor. Using the scissor because the scissor has an advantage. And therefore, we have changed the design of the game. We have changed the mechanics and dynamics, but we have also changed the aesthetics. People will play the game differently by the change of the design. And that's what gamification is. We want to nudge, this very popular word at the moment, terminology. We want to nudge people to do things differently in a way, so they can be more engaged. So that's gamification in short words. It's the crash course of gamification. But I will also, in the end of my presentation here, I would talk about some examples. Here, this was a research project that we did at together with the Vinnova Innovation Agency. And we tried how we could enhance adult learning in a learning management system. This was this NTI-skolan. It's based in northern part of Sweden, in Umeå, and they only use online learning. So they have around 35,000 students each year, and they wanted to increase their completion rate. So this is the LMS. It's a classical mathematics 2B course, and the thing that we added was when you entered the page or entered the course page, where the student was rewarded 50 experience points. And this, like I said before, was to build a habit. If you enter the page several times in the week, it was more, you get familiarized with the learning management system, and you were more familiar with the course, and you started to take action in the course. So this was a very, neat way to nudge the students to take the course, because in adult education, there's a lot of, dropouts. There's tons of barriers why adult education is very problematic, especially online education. But so you started to get familiarized with LMS using these mechanics. But if you see the 0 up there, it was actually the level of the student. which level they were on. And all the courses at the NTI-skolan was actually around 5 up to 8 weeks. So you had a level that correspond with course week. So you know which course which week the course was in, but also that the level correspond with the week. So you know that you are on the same page as the teacher wanted you to be at. And also for each week you had different assignments, which could be different from week to week. It could be hand in an assignment, do a booking for a test, do a booking for the final exam. And the participants felt, when we talked about them, when we talked with them in interview studies, that they felt that when they knew that all the missions were complete, they felt that relieved that they knew that they didn't have to do anything more in that week. So they felt that they were in control, but also felt that they progressed as in a good pace. And we didn't just added the game mechanic, the game element levels. We also added achievements or badges. So this was used as signposts as well as goal posts for the students. So when they started a course, they get their first achievements. When they were halfway through the course, they got one achievement. One way they know that what behaviors in the learning management system was rewarded. And that's one thing with gamification or motivational affordances, that the user must always know what are rewarded and what are the rules and the goal of the game or the gamification then. But I also did a study of digital onboarding, more of workplace engagement with mobile learning. And as you can see here in this example, there was a digital onboarding, but it used game elements for the user when they started to onboard into this corporation. This was done in a international production manufacturing company in Sweden, and this was it was really neatly done. In this in the onboarding phase, the users or the newly employed knew where what they were supposed to have learned in their onboarding every week, as you can see in the map. And I think the onboarding was about 8 weeks long, and then they finished the game. But it was a very simple game. They know what to do and when to do it. And when they clicked on the different missions, they could read about them. And this was also the company, the manufacturing company, used different quizzes so they can play in an engaging way, learn about the vision and the mission of the company, and in the same way acclimatize to the work environment, having lunch with the manager and so on and so forth. Really interesting take on this. And we're not, due to the corona crisis, we have not been able to do an investigation or research about this application, but I'm looking forward to do it this autumn. I think it will be amazing.
Adam?
But also we have this is the Minerva project. It's a citizen science project that I run for the moment. Yeah?
We need to finish at 10 and we need to
okay.
So take this as the last example and then we have some questions.
Okay. The Minerva project is a citizen science project that is giving adult training and adult education in it's totally free, and you learn about gamification in different ways. Then you have different courses. You can learn about gamification, but it's in the Google Classroom environment. And at the same time, when you learn about gamification, you are gamified and having an avatar and have different levels and achievements when you progress in the course. And this is built for mostly teachers in upper secondary education, but it could be used. Everyone is invited. So if you want to know more, go into bossfight.win/Minerva. Then you can apply for the course, and it's totally free, and you can see what's gamification all about and how you can be gamified when you do a course. Okay, that was all I had. Yeah, we will end this picture. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. We'll see here if we have any questions. If you have any questions, please put them on the chat channel. We'll see here if we have any questions.
They can also email me at these two addresses if they're interested.
We'll see here. Yes, and we also, our book, we can say that, will be launched in September, if everything goes according to plan. So if you are interested in that book, you can also sign up or keep your eyes open. It's at Studentlitteratur. Now we got a question. The first program/app that you used for online group. I will read it in Swedish. Första programmet, appen, vad hette den? Den ni använde på online-gruppen.
Som jag pratade om?
Ja, jag tror det. Var det Google?
Minerva-projektet är ju det som är... The Minerva project is one was the last slide. But also the first one, sorry, I have to recheck because this is called, it was Vinnova project at NTI-skolan, but I don't know if they're using the plugin anymore or at all courses. They are still evaluating it. But it's for adult education in komvuxkurser. If it's good.
Yes, and another, kan du ge oss adressen till Minerva, heter det så?
Yeah, I will put, I don't know if I'm sharing the screen, but as you can see, the Minerva web in the right corner.
Maybe we can, could we put it in the chat, maybe? YouTube chat?
Yeah, you can put it there. Because I'm not, I closed YouTube due to the, but I will put it in there
we can put it
after
there
the
later.
presentation.
Yeah. Good. Good. Any more questions from the audience? We can also say that no. We will have another seminar this autumn also about courses online in automation, collaborative applications and introduction courses to design of courses. So you can also keep your eyes open, probably in September. So we will have one more breakfast seminar in this topic, showing some new collaborations, hopefully. Yes, good. I think we will end the presentation. And thank
Yes.
you, Adam. The sound was not that good in the beginning, but gradually improved during the presentation. So we'll hope that people heard a little bit. Sorry for that. And this will also be, you can also look at this presentation again if you want. It will be on our YouTube channel. We will just cut it a little bit before launching it again. Good.
Maybe some, yeah.
Yes. Good. So, do you have anything else, Adam?
No, thank you for having me. It was great to talk about our upcoming book and to talk about my research. Thank you so much, Åsa, and thank you all for being here listening to me ranting about my research. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. And we will have another breakfast seminar. We will have other breakfast seminars in the evening, so in the autumn. So look at scilab.se if you want to see what we have. We will publish them before summer. Good. Thank you all. And
Thank you.
bye.